For so many years now, people have tried to find a direct correlation between real world violence and video games. They have tried so hard to push the narrative that video games make people violent, and back in 2013, Billy Graham suggested that violent games should be taxed, and Joe Biden's response to that was that it sounded like a good idea. That media and entertainment that portray violence should be subject to a special tax, with the proceedings going back to help victims and their families. And he also said that there's no legal reason why they couldn't tax companies who make violent video games. And of course, after he made these statements, he backtracked, though I think that we all know Joe Biden's stance on violent video games and video games in general. And during an interview with the New York Times recently, he decided to talk about some of his personal experiences with game developers he has met. Joe Biden calls Silicon Valley game developers little creeps who make games that teach you how to kill. Okay, boomer, this is not the same as holding a gun. That should be fairly obvious, but I thought that I had to point it out for you. Former US Vice President Joe Biden has harsh words for the video game and tech industries. In an interview with the New York Times, the presidential hopeful called game developers he met with during his time at the White House creeps, righteous, and arrogant, referring to his personal experiences with high-ranking executives in Silicon Valley. I do just want to point out that he might have met a few people that are arrogant and righteous, and yes, maybe they even came off as creepy, but he is definitely not the one to be talking with the reputation that he has. And you may recall the criticism I got for meeting with the leaders in Silicon Valley when I was trying to work out an agreement dealing with them protecting intellectual property for artists in the United States of America, said Biden. And at one point, one of the little creeps sitting around that table, who is a close to a billionaire, who told me he was an artist because he was able to come up with games that teach you how to kill people. You know, the like video games, offers the New York Times interviewer. I do think that that was a little bit up to Joe Biden's interpretation. I highly doubt that a video game developer said, I make a lot of money because I teach people how to kill. Because, as I said at the beginning, this is not the same as holding a gun. It is definitely not the same. And the notion that he is saying that they are little creeps. He met one of the little creeps sitting around the table, as it says. They probably were not a creep, but he is calling them a creep because they make violent video games. That is the problem, is saying someone is something, labeling someone as something, when they truly are not, just because you do not like what they are doing. He does not like that they are creating violent video games, so of course he is going to label them all of these awful labels such as creep, righteous, and arrogant. Biden has previously called for certain legal restrictions to be imposed on violent video games, like I said, suggesting in 2013 that there is no legal objective to imposing a tax on violent media. He has also stated that while no definitive proof exists linking video games or violent games and media with acts of real violence, the public shouldn't be afraid of facts which may come from research on the matter. I, as someone that discusses video games, is more than happy to read the source material you are quoting from. I am more than happy to see studies that link violence directly with video games. I want to see those studies, but they do not exist. And of course, saying there's no definitive proof, it makes it sound like in the future there will be that proof. But I highly doubt that we will see proof of violent video games and real-world violence correlate anytime soon, because there have been so many studies to prove the opposite, to prove that video games do help people. They are a way for people to express themselves and to have that sense of accomplishment. In everyday life, people do not have the sense of accomplishment they get from playing something as simple as a video game. But those are the real statements that Joe Biden made, calling Silicon Valley game developers little creeps who make games that teach you how to kill. That is all that I had to discuss for today's video. What do you think about this statement? I personally think that it sounds like he is a bit out of touch. He may have met some people that are not great people, or maybe he met some people that truly do not care about the art that is behind video games, and video games are art, in my opinion. And he is just reacting poorly because he is out of touch. I personally believe that. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments section down below. Do you think Joe Biden is out of touch? I think this statement proves that, and proves my assumption. But if you all enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like, and of course if you did not, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.